2, 1.
Ooh, welcome to the Fourth Line Podcast, part of Full Press Radio. This is November the 15th, 2021. With you today is myself, Carl, and Stevie Nick.
Good evening, Carl. I was not prepared to start. I realized I start the show, but as soon as I started reading something, and now I'm not prepared anymore.
Well,
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, we're doing a podcast.
Yeah, I know. I'm here. I've closed the thing I'm reading.
Okay. This is good because I'm going to bring up the thing that you were reading about. So, there was an article. How long ago did this thing come out? You were telling me about this before.
I think like 2 days ago.
Okay. So recently, there was some news involving an actor. Let's just leave it at that. And like some necessities that are missing from their workout routine. Okay. I think that's enough to be said.
Yes.
What do you think? If you're a hockey player, right? What do you think? Even like a beer league player, etc. What are like the must-haves for you playing hockey?
What? Hold on. Can you reiterate that question? Like as a hockey player,
yeah.
I go to the arena. Like, what are the things I need to, when I play hockey?
What is your like maybe like a pregame routine? Do you need anything? What is it that you need?
Okay, there's a couple things I need. First of all, I need a towel so I can lay it down because I don't want to put my feet on that gross arena floor. Okay, so I put a towel down.
Okay, I do not bring a towel. I just do the hot swap.
You're just quick?
Yeah.
Because there's also guys who do neither. They just like let their feet rest in their hockey bags, which I think might be worse. Like just put your feet on the floor. That's
definitely worse than whatever's on that floor. I mean, I guess people like spit all over that floor for some weird reason.
Yeah.
I'm not spitting into my hockey bag, so maybe the hockey bag is better.
Okay. The other thing I do, my water bottle, I fill it up before I leave the house.
Same. Yeah.
I never drink the water in the arena sinks.
No. It's pretty gross.
I'm sure it's fine, but the sinks themselves, like those bathrooms are disgusting.
Hey, they clean them weekly.
Hopefully more now. Okay, but here's a question for you. As a beer leaguer, okay, as a non-professional hockey player, you shower at the rink?
No, because as mentioned, everything there is disgusting. That swamp water in the showers, I want none of it. That's why I'm hot swapping those. I'm just taking off the dirty skate socks and putting on regular ones, and I'm going home and shower.
Me too. I don't think I've ever showered in an arena before. It's too gross for me.
No. The constant state of dampness in a hockey locker room is not something I want to put my body through.
That and the sounds, the way when you look up at the pipes and they're all just like wrapped in tape.
like someone literally just took it off their socks and put it on the pipe. It's not even fresh tape.
Yeah, exactly. And then watching the guys who do shower stand outside, keeping their arms to their chest while they wait for the water to warm up.
Yeah.
Not for me.
I'm good. I will gladly go to the comfort of my home and shower.
Yeah. I'm not going to the theater after my hockey game. I'm always just going home.
Yeah.
Shower when I get home.
Literally most beer league games are so late that there's nothing open.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not gonna shower for the person in the McDonald's drive-thru.
No, they didn't shower for you.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, I think those are very important things. Mine, I mean, what is your, we talk about tape. What's your tape routine? Because mine, I need a lot of tape. I tape I know there's like a couple, like the usual is just like a couple loops around the pads, maybe at the top, but I like make sure I do like a double around my thighs because they're large and in charge, and I need to make sure that that tape stays on there. Borderline like cutting off circulation. Like that's how tight I'm putting it around there.
To keep your socks up above your knees?
Yeah.
Don't you have the Velcro thing on your jock?
Yeah. Not enough.
Doesn't work?
Not enough. So I'm taping them there, then I'm taping them on the pads twice.
Okay. So I go around the pads on my shins just once. But you know what I do? I like around the back, I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain this with just words, but I like bulk up the socks so that they stay nice and tight. And I just go all the way around once and clip it off. I put nothing above the knee though. I can't. It drives me crazy.
Yeah, I like those tight. There's nothing worse than a sloppy sock when you're trying to play.
Do you tape your skates?
No.
Have you seen people who do that?
Yeah, but I also I use wax laces, so they're pretty tight anyways.
Have you ever done the thing where you tie your laces around the back of your ankle?
Yeah, I do that.
You do that?
Yeah.
Just get shorter laces.
Yeah, I bought them. They were too long, and now I do that. If I had have thought about it first, then yeah, I wouldn't have done that. But
I know that's why there's nothing like special about doing that. It's just the laces are too long, so you have to wrap it around a couple times. Just get shorter laces.
Otherwise, you've got 8 foot long loops going down the ice.
Okay, here's one more beer league question. How often do you tape your stick?
Every 3 or 4 games.
It's pretty good.
Probably until there's a hole in it.
Yeah.
That's usually
on the bottom specifically is mine. Yeah. On the front of my blade, I leave the hole a few games.
Yeah.
Because it'll happen right out. It's a fresh tape job. First period, boom, hole on the front of my blade. I'm like, I'm not doing this again.
I'm not taping my stick on the bench. That hole here's my thing. I always like to think, what is the limiting factor in my performance? It's not that stick. It's not the tape. It's not the tape job. That limiting I can do whatever. I can do just fine with what's there.
That's totally it. I probably do my sticks every 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, and that's enough.
Stick, just the one I use.
Do you not bring a backup?
Oh, I bring a backup. I just never use it.
Oh, yeah.
It always has a fresh tape job.
That one's always nice and clean. Exactly. All right. Well, there you go. That is Beer League Hockey Routine with Carl and Nick. Welcome to our new segment. It's pretty much the same segment every week.
Yeah, we'll just repeat this every week.
Yeah. I've got the Red Wings game on. They are currently winning
2-0, or are you further ahead of me?
It is 2-0 over the Jackets.
They're looking good, man. Both of these teams are surprisingly looking good. But these Red Wings, they're fun.
Yeah, tell me, look, my team, we had some big wins this week, but they still left me with sadness because no one can stay healthy. Literally, McKinnon's out. We had Landeskog got hurt in a game. JT Compher got hurt. It's just Bowen Byram's out. Everyone's hurt on this team. So, I'm not sure how long it'll last, but hey, exciting times with the Red Wings.
Well, yeah. I was saying this the other day. The last 2 years, they've been draft lottery tier. That bottom tier of the league where you're just like, don't even bother watching this team. They're going to be draft lottery. Just get through the season, get to the lottery, get to the draft, start next year. And I think I kind of expected them to be in there again this year. And they're really not in that tier anymore. At least not the way that they're currently playing. I have no, I'm not under any illusions that they're going to go to the Stanley Cup finals and take a run at the cup. I don't even really think they're going to make the playoffs, but they're not in that bottom tier of the league anymore. They're on their way up.
Yeah. And I would agree that they probably won't maintain this, but there's not a lot, and you correct me if I'm wrong in this, but there's not a lot that I look at when I watch these Red Wings games and think they're getting lucky. They're playing well.
Yep. Absolutely. And their young guys especially are looking very, very good for it being their first year in the league.
Oh, it's literally them carrying the team, which is what you want to see, right? You're seeing Dylan Larkin and the rest of the team, right? In my fantasy, Phillip has been a mainstay in my lineups.
It's great. You'd love to see it. The one thing that still drives me bonkers, they've lost a couple games so far this season that were played here in Canada. And, at least one of those games that I can think of was a 1-goal game that somebody like Tyler Bertuzzi could make a difference in, because he makes a difference in every other game that he plays in those situations.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy.
Yep. And that could be the issue, right? Could you imagine if that's what keeps the Red Wings from a playoff berth, is a couple games, right? 4 or 5 points you miss out on, and you're playing a lot in Canada in that Atlantic division. So
that's it. And he's been unbelievable this year. He's been playing amazing.
Yeah, he has been pretty good. Well, let's talk. Hurts. I mean, maybe it's because he's staying fresh because he doesn't play every game.
He's nice and rested.
It's the ultimate strategy. Let's touch on that, because you mentioned him staying back, and part of that is the COVID protocol that's in place with the borders and things like that. And I have been very grateful that this is really the first time this year that we have had to talk about this. The first time that we've had an issue like this. The Ottawa Senators this past week started to get into a bit of a problem. At one point, they had every single defenseman in the organization called up to their team. I didn't know that was possible.
I don't think anybody did until this year.
No, exactly. So as it stands right now, the Ottawa Senators have Matt Murray, Nikita Zaitsev, Nick Holden, Victor Mete, Josh Brown, Connor Brown. The Brown brothers are both out. Austin Watson, Dylan Gramble, Alex Fermenton, and an assistant coach all currently are in COVID protocol, which means that the Ottawa Senators are having their next 3 games postponed, not canceled, but postponed. We see this all the time where they announce 3 games, then they announce more later. So we'll see what ends up coming from this, but the next 3 games for the Senators are not happening.
I'm not surprised that it's happening. I am surprised it took this long, but the league very obviously does not want to be postponing games because of COVID-19.
No.
Now, I think one thing we've learned over the last 2 years is that this is not something that it's very hard to control this. And once it gets going, it's going. And, with the Sens, it's at a point now where, like, what are they supposed to do? They're missing. What's the number? 10? Did you name off 10 names?
10. Yeah.
They have 10 players who are unable to play right now.
Yeah. 9 players and a coach as of right now.
What are you supposed to do?
Well, and that's what I find interesting about this, is because the NHL did not use this as a means to stop spread, right? Which is what we saw last year, right? Which is what we saw, is that you'd have 2 or even 3 cases on a team, and the NHL, the league would shut it down. Say you're done, like no practice, nothing. We'll come back to this later. That's no longer what the NHL is doing. They are waiting until you cannot field a roster, and then they step in, which I think is probably, I'd like a little bit more proactive, but for them to be able to get the games in, right? And they were very adamant with the players and the players union that, like, this is on you. Okay. You want these things, you want some concessions. This is on you. Do your job, stay healthy, play the games. So I get that they're like, look, you have 8 players out, 7 players out, you're playing. You got 10. Apparently that's where they draw the line.
Yeah, well, I kind of wonder too, like, the next 2 of the next 3 games in Ottawa's schedule are in the US. So I wonder if there's some border crossing stuff that comes into play as well. Potential exposure to players who are currently not on the list.
Could be. So it is only one of them is only the 1 game in New Jersey. The other 2, the Preds and the Rangers, are both supposed to be in Ottawa.
Those ones are in Ottawa.
Yes, those two are in Ottawa.
I see.
But then they do go on a big road trip. So after these, they're going to Denver and California. So kind of, I think, I definitely agree with your take there, right? That they need to get this under control so that they can travel moving forward.
Yeah. It had to happen. I think, like, you know, we probably sat here. If not, like, I'm sure we would have if it had come up before the season started. And if someone had said, hey, do you guys think there's going to be games postponed this year due to COVID-19? We'd say yes.
Yeah. The fact that the NFL has gone 10 weeks through the season and hasn't had to cancel a game. We've had players miss, but not cancel a game is fantastic. Really well done job by the league and the players.
And the NHL held on longer than I thought they would. Now, should they have postponed some games sooner? There's some teams who were missing a lot of players this year because of COVID-19, and the league refused to postpone games. Your Avalanche being one of them. The Bruins, the Penguins, the Sharks, the Knights. Now, no, I don't think any of these teams had 9 players at one time on the list.
No, I think of most of them, I would say no more than 2 or 3 at a time.
So this truly is then on another level.
Yeah, no, nothing close to this. And I do think that something needed to be done, because if it continues to spread and then you have no one to field a team with, it does need to get to a point that you do this. But I would be very surprised to see this, you know, more aggressive stances from the NHL.
Yeah, I would be surprised about that as well.
So one thing that was interesting, and it was brought up mostly because he'd written an article about it earlier this year, but Frank Saravelli brought up something interesting that he talked to Bill Daly about earlier this year. And that is the fact that I mentioned the concessions that the NHL made and the players made. One of the things was the Olympics, right? The NHL threw that as a bone to the players and said, hey, you can go to the Olympics, but you got to be good on these COVID rules. And so apparently, and there's no strict wording on this, which is what makes it a problem. They said that in the agreement, the actual wording, this agreement allows for the possibility of a later decision to withdraw in the event evolving COVID conditions are deemed by the NHL to render participation by players to be impractical or unsafe. And Bill Daly said that they're looking, he said, so if we have to either cancel games or postpone or reschedule games outside our normal window, that would mean we will not participate in the Olympics. Do
I think that this particular incident is going to affect the Olympics?
Yes.
No, I don't. I think it's going to take a little more than whatever we're talking about here, 2 or 3 games to have the league pull out of the Olympics.
Especially, could you imagine if the league pulls out of the Olympics and the reason involves not a single player that is going to the Olympics? Could you imagine? Because on that list of players that I gave, I don't foresee any of those players being on rosters, right? Perhaps, I don't know the Russian roster that well, but I would imagine Nikita Zaitsev probably isn't an Olympian. But could you imagine that a team where I don't think a single Ottawa Senator is going to make, Tim Stützle will make the German team?
You don't think Thomas Chabot will make the Canadian team?
Maybe. Probably. Maybe not. He's French.
He is French, I agree.
I don't think Brady Tkachuk would make the American team. It's a deep team.
Yeah, it is.
So nonetheless, the Ottawa Senators, a team with possibly Olympians, ruins it for everyone.
That would be amazing. I mean, it doesn't even have to be about the Olympians, just the Ottawa Senators in general.
Just whatever they've done, whatever they do, there's always a problem.
It's enough.
Unreal.
No, I think it's going to take more than 3 games, though.
I think so. I would say you probably need multiple teams having to reschedule games to make that.
Well, I think like what would have to happen is the league would have to be in a very tough scheduling position that they're running out of time slots to reschedule these games in. So they need those 2 weeks back.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for sure. And I mean, they can find ways to fit these Senators games in. So, all right,
just play them during the Olympics.
Yeah, no one from. I mean, the Devils might have someone.
Hey, look, Carl, we're all going to be free between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time during the Olympics.
Here's what you do. Instead of holding practices, you fly all the teams with COVID canceled games to China, and during practice times, you run those games.
Yeah. Give us something to watch in our prime time.
Yeah, right. Wake up. It's 3 a.m. local time. You got a game in 20 minutes. Get going.
That's what you get.
NHL's got rules. Could you imagine NBC getting the Olympics and then ESPN flying players over to play games during primetime events? I'm sure NBC would be thrilled about that.
Bring it on. I like the competition.
And in all honesty, now this seems more plausible since I mentioned that. Like, you know what? I could see this happening.
Yeah, totally. Right.
All right. On a much more somber note, Bob Murray, GM and vice president of the Anaheim Ducks, he entered a substance program this week, stepped aside from his roles. A full resignation happened, but it was not something that really came of his own accord.
So he is fully resigned at this point?
Yes, I do believe. I will confirm that.
I believe initially he was just placed on like administrative leave while the quote unquote internal investigation happened.
Yeah. No, he has resigned.
So he has officially stepped down.
Yes.
Again, quote unquote resigned.
Yeah.
From the role. Entered a substance abuse program, but all of this was born from allegations of harassment by him against employees.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm not 100% sure or knowledgeable about, like the source or type of harassment. It sounded more like workplace harassment.
Yeah, and I don't think that they did a pretty good job of not leaking that. Whoever it was who got this information did a pretty good job of that, because I don't think that's necessary for us to know that.
Yes, agreed. Now, I feel like I'm going to tell you how I feel, what I feel like this is, and you tell me if I'm way off. Is this a direct result of the situation in Chicago and possibly the league's memo to teams reminding them of all of this?
I think this is absolutely right. Absolutely. This comes as a result of the NHL saying, hey, here's what happens. And also people seeing the outcome of the Chicago incident, right? And seeing that something is being done, actions are being taken, and feeling more comfortable coming forward with some of these things that, the powers that be are not allowed to just wield a giant, whatever they wield without repercussions, right? That there are consequences when you act inappropriately with that. And so absolutely, this is, I think, connected.
And it also feels good to me that the team was proactive about this. They didn't just take quiet internal actions and then, somehow it got leaked in the media and then they had to address it. They were proactive. They were, I think as transparent as they needed to be. And like you said, action was taken. There are consequences.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we'll see what happens with Bob Murray moving forward, where he ends up. But I think for the sake of the organization, for the whoever it was and whatever it was that happened, this was definitely the right move.
Yeah. 100%.
Well,
oof. Are you still watching this hockey game?
I saw the goal by Jenner.
This is goals.
You're ahead of me.
Oh man, they just scored twice in like 2 minutes.
That's not good.
No.
I spoke of the Red Wings too soon.
Well, I mean, we could have that conversation that we started the show with on the Red Wings. We could probably have the exact same conversation about the Blue Jackets. Not quite sure where this team came from this year.
I think they're free of the torts.
You think that's what it is? They just feel looser, more free.
Absolutely. John Tortorella is a very good coach in certain circumstances. And I think having him as your coach for how long? He was there for a while, right? 5 years.
Yeah.
I want to say having him every day at practice in games, it gets tiring. I can absolutely see, you loosen the chains a bit and these guys are having some fun.
Love to see it. Good for them.
Absolutely. All right. Looking at the clock, let's take a little earlier of a break today. We're going to be back on the other side looking at the rest of what's happened this week. Three, two, one.
All right, Carl, let's talk about goalie tenders.
Goalie tenders. The only thing better than chicken tenders is goalie tenders. But this year, I would say that this year we're seeing goalie tenders not being so great. Actually, before we get to that important question, favorite place to get nuggets from?
Oh, Jack Astor's. Do you have Jack Astor's in Calgary?
Yes, but I think one. But isn't that a sit-down restaurant?
Yeah, but they have the best chicken tenders because they toss it in their wing sauce.
Ooh, okay.
Boneless. I mean, define. What did you say? Nuggets?
I said nuggets, but we did start with tenders. Yeah. I think Wendy's would be my go-to for tenders. Nuggets, I think McDonald's is still the...
I don't know. I had McDonald's nuggets a couple weeks ago. Didn't sit well with me. I think you're right on Wendy's though. Burger King has more like fingers, right? They're like strips.
Yeah, I never go to Burger King and order chicken though. It's not a thing that I do.
Carl, Burger King is just a name.
Yeah, but
it's literally the same fast food restaurant as all the other ones.
But the other ones aren't putting burger in their name. I'm going for what they do well, and they do burgers.
Is McDonald like named after a person?
The clown.
Ronald McDonald. I think the clown was named after the restaurant, but
is there a person?
Oh, I don't know. Now I'm thinking about it. Like there's Wendy's, and then there's Harvey's.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming McDonald's is like a person's name.
Yeah, I don't. Now I'm trying to do a quick. So it was the first McDonald's was started by Richard and Maurice McDonald.
So we got McDonald's named after a person, Wendy's named after a person, Harvey's named after a person, Burger King.
Yeah, the king of burgers. But you're right. Most of these places are so self-centered that they name it after themselves, right? A&W are named after people. Burger King, they're like, look, you're here for burgers, and we're the kings.
We're not going to BS you with our name here.
You don't care who runs this place. We make burgers.
You just want a burger. We're just going to give you a burger.
Yeah. And apparently also chicken fingers.
Strips? I don't know. I think they're the long ones. They come in like the fries containers.
Interesting. I mean, also nuggets come in the fries containers at certain places.
This is a weird topic that we did not plan on getting into.
Nonetheless.
We were going to talk about chicken tenders.
Goalie tenders.
Goalie tenders.
We're going to talk about goalies because so far this year, we've had a number of goalies. Even, I mean, we think back to last year, right? Like the Vezina winning goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury. Should have been, if you ask Nikita Kucherov, which I mean, he's on the IR, so no one's asking him anything right now. But if you ask Nikita Kucherov who should have won it, he would have said Andrei Vasilevsky. But the other two, right, Phillip Grubauer, Marc-Andre Fleury, who were finalists, Marc-Andre Fleury won, have both been performing quite poorly so far this year.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on there?
Well, you know what, Carl? I don't know. I think they're just on teams that suck now. You might hear a little bit of anger in my voice. The whole reason I brought up this topic to cover today is because on my fantasy hockey team, I have two thirds of the Vezina finalists.
And you thought to yourself, I am set. These guys are great.
And you know what? I lose every week because of the goalie categories.
All right. If you're listening right now, players in our fantasy hockey league, someone trade Nick a goalie, please, so that we don't have to apparently hear this again.
Carl hears about this more than all of you, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. If you think it's bad now, you should just see our texts. But okay. So while you are upset, I do think that the team they're playing on has a huge impact. Right? I mean, Chicago in and of itself is a whole different kettle of fish.
Yeah. And I think, I think we've talked a lot about Chicago over the last few weeks. And there's a lot going on there that I think, is impacting their level of play. But and part of it too, by the way, is Fleury was like, I think I'm going to retire. And then they're like, whoa, just think about this for a minute. Like, it kind of felt like they coaxed him. They had to really push him to come and play for them.
Right.
So yeah, I kind of feel like his heart's not in it.
Right, and it definitely feels like that because it looks like it is, right? It does look when you watch him play. He is not interested in being there. I honestly, you can retire at any point in time. And if he very much wanted to do that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see your fantasy hockey goalie just hang up the skates at any point.
Oh, I don't have Fleury on my team.
You have Vasilevsky?
I have Grubauer. Was Vasilevsky a finalist?
I thought you said you had 2/3.
I did. You know who I was thinking of? The Calder finalists.
Oh.
I have Nedeljkovic, who's been my only good goalie. I
was going to say, that's good.
Yeah, except he lets in a lot of goals. Anyways, Grubauer. Sorry, so that's my mistake. I only have 1/3 of the Vezina finalists. I forgot about Vasilevsky.
You know what I think? We know what people think that is, that you forgot about it.
Yes.
But, so when we look at goalies this year, right, and especially like this, we're a quarter of the way into the season.
Yeah.
A quarter, a sixth, a quarter.
We're almost not next week. The week. No, next week is American Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Okay, so we're a quarter of the way into the year. We're no longer like, this isn't the start of the year, right?
Yeah.
Like if you have really, messed up, like teams like the Habs, the Blackhawks, the Coyotes are not in contention anymore. But so at this point in time, we've got enough. What do you see as a path forward for some of these struggling goalies with I mean, Marc-Andre Fleury has always had the benefit of playing with, he went from playing with Sidney Crosby and the Penguins to playing with the Vegas Golden Knights that showed up and went to the Stanley Cup Finals immediately.
Yeah, but I mean, in his defense, like I could see how he could be talked into the Blackhawks being a good team. They weren't this bad last year. They weren't this bad the year before. Yes, they've gotten progressively worse the last few years under Jeremy Colleton, but they have some pieces that are exciting. They went and got Seth Jones. Alex DeBrinket's legit. Patrick Kane is still Patrick Kane.
Jonathan Toews is no longer Jonathan Toews.
Jonathan Toews is, yeah. I mean, I'm sure he was left out of their pitch deck because he was probably a TBD at the time. But I could see how he could be talked into it. It's just like you don't want to have to talk a goalie into playing for your team.
Or anyone for that matter.
Yeah.
But especially a goalie. You're right. A goalie is an extra important part to not want to have to like sell them on showing up.
Yeah. I actually kind of wonder about Fleury's future with Chicago.
How late do they go before he's another trade piece, right?
Yeah. I mean, he should be a trade piece right now.
What teams would you look at that are maybe struggling because goaltending is an issue that would have the ability to go out and get Fleury?
Man, I mean, like looking at these teams, here are the top 5 teams in goals against this year so far, okay?
Okay.
So these are the 5 teams who have let in the most goals. The Arizona Coyotes, which, like, why would they go get Fleury?
Yeah,
don't worry about it. Montreal Canadiens. Carey Price sounds like he might be coming back at some point, so you're not doing that.
Yeah, that seems likely.
The Seattle Kraken. You have the other Vezina finalist.
Yeah.
Probably not going to go get Fleury.
No.
The Vancouver Canucks. Probably not, right? You got Thatcher Demko.
Yeah.
And the Ottawa Senators.
I do notice that you stopped short of the Detroit Red Wings.
Hold on. No, I said top 5. I said top 5 in goals against. Okay. I think the Senators should go get Fleury. Bring back the Fleury-Murray tandem.
Okay.
That's a Stanley Cup tandem right there.
It was, yes. Against the Ottawa Senators, right? Was that not... That was the year that they beat them in the East Finals, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Amazing.
So they know that the Fleury-Murray all too well.
It works. The Fleury-Murray. Then there's the Chicago Blackhawks. Then there's the Detroit Red Wings.
Yeah, and I think of... I mean, we look at some of these teams up near the top that have a few more. I mean, if you're using goals against as your metric, which is a fine one to do, right? Like Vegas. Yeah, sure. They're not bringing Fleury back. That ship has sailed.
Yes, 100%.
I mean, honestly, I don't know how they can find a way to fit it in, but I know that somehow the Leafs could find a way to fit Marc-Andre Fleury into this roster.
But why?
Because Joseph Woll played an actual game this week for them. Because Peter Mrazek is out and they need someone to back up Jack Campbell.
Peter Mrazek will be back at some point. He's got a couple of years on his deal. I think he's on a 3-year deal. Could be wrong. Like, why are you going to go pick up Fleury now? He's not going to be out the rest of the season.
But you don't have to worry about that if you go get Fleury.
I mean, I guess so. What about Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
I'm sure Fleury would love that. Go finish his career in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they would. That would be a great fit for sure. What about, so we've got some ideas for Fleury. Okay. Trade him is the solution there. What do you do? Right? Phillip Grubauer had a number of successful years in Colorado, and now is on a worse team in the Kraken and is struggling. What do you do there? Do you think that it's a him problem or a team problem?
I think it's both, probably. I just keep coming back to thinking about how they said that they had built this team from the back up. The back's not doing very well. I
think they broke their back.
Yeah, I
think that's the problem.
I think that's probably what's happened. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is for Seattle. To be honest with you, I haven't watched that many of their games, but when you look at goals for, they're middle of the pack. So it's not like they're lacking a significant amount of scoring.
I think when I watch Seattle play, I've watched a few of their games, a handful, and it looks like a team that hasn't played much together. It's not a cohesive team yet. And that is a thing that's really going to impact the goalie, right?
So do you think they're going to start clicking at some point?
As the season goes, I don't think it'll be like a switch will flip, but I do think that as the year goes, I would expect them to play better and better.
So you're saying I shouldn't trade Grubauer?
I'm not saying that. What I am saying is you shouldn't talk down the goaltender you're trying to trade in a fantasy hockey league when the entire league listens to this show.
This is a bad idea bringing up this topic, huh?
Here's what you should do next week, okay? You go to your team and you say, I'm going to focus on the best players on this team, talk them up, say how they're going to keep it up, and then try to trade those guys. That's what you should do next week.
My best player was the result of a trade that I made with
me.
Yeah,
Marchand.
Yeah. That's how good my draft strategy was.
You're welcome. You are welcome. So going back and cycling back to Seattle. I think that like just that cohesiveness, it's very slow. So if you looking at their shot data to try to get like a bigger picture of what's happening there, Seattle's actually given up the 6th fewest shots in the league this year, and have been out shooting their opponents. So it really is coming down to just poor goaltending, and a lot of those are like more high danger opportunities. So I think those are some of those things where like you make a poor decision because you're not playing as well together, right? And you give up a high risk opportunity the other way. And so I think that's what we're going to start seeing is, some of those bigger mistakes start to sort themselves out, and Seattle is able to play better and be a better situation for Grubauer.
That's a very good analysis, Carl. And you've actually put my mind at ease a little bit about my goaltending situation.
Yeah, I would focus more on my analysis and less on the .859 save percentage for the Kraken.
Yeah, that's the one that burns a hole in me.
Which is last by a fairly significant amount.
Yeah, it's not good for them.
All right.
But those are the bad goalies. I know we got to move on, but very quickly, like who are your front runners for the Vezina this year? Like who are the ones who are really standing out, and is it sustainable?
If we're looking at sustainable, it's not my first answer. First answer would be Freddie Anderson has looked spectacular. Do I think he keeps it up? No, because he's going to get hurt at some point this year is what's going to happen to Freddie. And I hope that's not the case. I hope that the Hurricanes continue to play great and he has success there. But that's my first one.
Okay. I mean, I think that even if he doesn't get hurt, he's not a .938 save percentage goalie.
Are you sure?
I mean, no, I'm never sure of anything with goalies because goalies make no sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, agreed. What about you? So that's one of mine. I bet you're going to probably pick my second choice next though.
Is it Bobrovsky?
It is Bobrovsky.
I think Bobrovsky is playing amazing this year. Exactly what the Panthers needed.
And is playing like that team is playing well around him. Will continue to play well. Same with the Hurricanes, right? That's why if Freddie stays healthy, I think he could keep up a decent version. But yeah, they're playing great.
Yeah. I like Bobrovsky a lot this year. I kind of really been liking Jack Campbell too.
You watch too much Leafs hockey in your house with a Leafs fan. That's what you've got going on there.
It's not even just watching it. She just talks to me about them all the time. So this like fourth line winger who's having a great 2-game stretch.
Are they they should put him up with Matthews.
Well, I mean, it's certainly their bottom 6 who are carrying their scoring right now this year. Anyways, we don't need to talk about the Leafs anymore.
Yeah, that was already too much. So Jack Campbell, mine that I look at is staying in Canada, but Jacob Markstrom, I mean, definitely floated with those 3 shutouts in 4 games. That really hot stretch makes him look a lot better right now. But even if you keep up a decent performance the rest of the season, he'd be, I think my trio right now would be Freddie, Bobrovsky, Markstrom.
Yeah. That's a very good call on Markstrom. I mean, that whole Calgary team is playing phenomenally this year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I am okay being wrong on them. I did not think that they would play better this year, but they are.
They're basically playing this year the way I thought they were going to play last year.
Agreed. Yeah.
Anyways,
we're going to try out something new here. We've got 15 odd minutes left in the show. We're going to try out a new segment. So for those of you just tuning in for the first time, this is a new segment. So if it's terrible, now you know. Although I do think maybe it wasn't during, there have been so many years we've done the show, they kind of all blend together at this point. I feel like at some point we did a segment similar to this. I could be wrong.
Oh, when you asked me if we done it before, you meant like ever. I thought you meant this year.
No, I meant
we've
ever.
Definitely done this before.
Okay. Me and you? Did we do this last year?
I think maybe not last year, probably the year before. Last year was COVID year. It was weird.
Let's make it sound like it was a really long time ago so that if it's terrible, we can just say we were rusty.
Okay.
We're going to do the best and the worst of the league. Of the week, sorry. The week in the league. Absolutely. So we're each going to pick.
We're just rusty right now.
So rusty. We're just going to pick one best and one worst of the week. Obviously, steering away. I mean, we've talked about some bests and worsts of the week, but we're going to focus on players, teams that we think have had a good week, and some that have had not a good week. Do you want to get us started?
Yeah, I'll start. I'm going to start with my best of the week. I'm going to go with Alex Ovechkin.
Ooh, what did Alex Ovechkin do this week?
He only scored 2 goals, but that second goal moved him into number 4 overall all time in NHL goals, past Brett Hull.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, he added 6 assists this last week, and he's tied for the league lead in points over the last 7 days.
And tied with, I actually think he's second. Not splitting hairs.
On my date range that I've selected here.
Your 7 days.
Within my 7-day date range, he's tied with Leon Draisaitl for 8 points.
In my 7-day range, he is tied with Pasternak, Ryan Getzlaf, and Evgeny Kuznetsov that's assists, with 6 assists. You're probably right. You are correct.
Yeah,
yes.
if I sort by assists, that is true.
You're just better at pressing buttons than I am. Hey, did you know that in the last 7 days, Alex Ovechkin is tied for second in the league in assists?
I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. We're rusty. So that's an interesting choice because mine was actually a milestone-based one as well. Connor McDavid hit 600 points this past week. And I mean, he has been having a phenomenal season, right? I think one of the best. What's interesting about his is that like what he's been doing almost seems sustainable when you look at like the core. Like, I mean, he's got 10 goals in 13 games this year and is shooting only 0.9 higher than his career average. Like, this is not something that's otherworldly and like, oh yeah, he'll come back to earth when like his shooting percentage regresses. No, this is just like Connor McDavid being really good. But 600 points. He is the sixth fastest player to ever do it. And I feel like, I mean, most of this is players from a certain era. So you've got Jari Kurri, Wayne Gretzky, Mike Bossy, Peter Stastny, and Mario Lemieux. So, I mean, most of that list makes sense.
That's some good company to be in.
I didn't realize Peter Stastny started so hot in his career.
But Connor McDavid is like otherworldly. Like we talked about this the other week when he scored that goal against the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
He should be talked about on every sports show about how good of a hockey player he is. Instead, we got to sit here and watch them talk about how few penalties are called against him. If I have to hear another segment about how many penalties are called against Connor McDavid, I'm going to lose it.
What if you tune into ESPN and hear John Tortorella talk about how Connor McDavid has to play better defense for the Stanley Cup?
That was something that happened too, hey?
I mean, that could qualify for the worst of the week.
Oh, talk about bad takes. You thought my take last week was bad on the Oilers? I think that one was worse.
Trust me, our listeners had several opinions on your Oilers take from last week.
Oh, they did? Come on, Torts' take was worse. You're not going to tell Connor McDavid to change his game. You look at the other 24 guys on your team and you say, hey, everyone, change your game to make it work with Connor's.
And it's not even that. His game is not even an issue. He's not becoming a liability, right? I think back to, to use your best of the week as an example, right? There was certainly a time where Ovechkin's defensive game needed some help, right? But I think it wasn't more so his defensive game. It was just, I think what we've seen from Ovechkin is just a wholehearted, full effort in every facet of the game is what I see it as now. Or maybe, I don't know, you're nodding your head. So I assume you
agree.
Yeah. But
yes,
but I don't think it's the same thing, right? I'm not going to sit here and say, all right, Ovi, you need to backcheck. No, you are one of the greatest scorers of all time. You need to be setting yourself up to score more goals. And that is the way that this team should function. Same as McDavid.
Yeah. And McDavid's okay, I'll go score more goals.
No
problem.
Yeah.
It's me versus 4 other players. That's fine. I'll score a goal. I don't need teammates.
No, just get me the puck, get me that zone entry, and I'm good.
He's just so good. If this is going to be a continued segment, we could probably have Connor McDavid as the best every week.
The best, the Connor McDavid. Is that what we call this segment? It doesn't have a name other than best and worst.
I think that it should be the Connor Coyotes segment.
Ooh. Okay. I can get behind this.
The best and the worst.
Connor and the Coyotes.
Connor and the Coyotes.
Well, what's your Coyote of the week?
The Vancouver Canucks.
Ooh.
Pretty bad, man. They had 2 consecutive games where they allowed 7 goals.
And that one, but they did it in 2 very different ways, right? Colorado, they just rolled over and died from the very beginning. That Vegas game was something to behold.
Tell me about it. I couldn't stay awake to watch the whole thing.
Those late games. All right, I gotta switch over because I want to get it correct. But from the memory that I have of it, they were up 4-3, I believe. They lost the game 7-4. So let's see, JT Miller. They were up. It was tied at 3, and then tied at 4, and then Vegas scored 3 goals to end the game. And the sets of goals that they were giving up, that Demko just looked very confused. He should not have still been in that game. I mean, he stayed in for all 7 goals. I think the fact that the night before, or was it 2 nights before? 2 nights before, they'd given up 7 goals to Colorado, also leaving Thatcher Demko in for 6 of those. You're just breaking this guy's confidence.
It's not good. It's rough. They had the worst record of the week. They were 0-3-1. Well, I guess they didn't have the worst record of the week. The Coyotes were 0-3-0.
You know what?
So at least the Canucks collected a point. But still very bad for the Vancouver Canucks, a team that should not be competing with the Coyotes for worst of the week.
No. Here's mine. One that I've literally, it might seem like I'm backing away from something I said earlier, but my worst of the week, I'm going to give it to the Florida Panthers. They played 4 games this week, walked away with a shootout and an OT loss. And they were playing top quality competition. I will give them that for the most part. I mean, they played the Rangers, who are having a fantastic season. They played the Lightning, who are the Lightning. The Devils, meh, and the Penguins. And I believe that was Sidney Crosby's first game back. Was that not?
Yep.
Because that was the game where he threw that child into the boards.
No, that was a different game. That wasn't against the Panthers. No.
Okay. For some reason, I remember that person wearing a Panthers jersey. I don't know why.
I think he was wearing a Washington jersey.
They did play this week, so that makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so nonetheless, the Panthers have to be better. Luckily, they played so well up to that point that they're still first in the Atlantic. And it feels weird giving my worst of the week to a team that's winning their division, but another week like that, and they will most certainly not be.
Well, they're certainly falling back to earth after their very hot start, right?
Yes.
I don't really think they're going to, flatten themselves against the surface of the earth. I think they'll probably bounce back a little bit. They're too good of a team for that.
I mean, the Cats have 9 lives.
Well done, Carl. There's the name of the episode.
I always appreciate when you tell me very bluntly what to name it in the middle of the show, so I don't have to think about it later tonight.
It's either that or something around goalie tenders.
Ooh, the 9 goalie tenders. There
you go. Anyways, no, I don't think they'll be this bad forever. I think they're a better team than that. They're just having a bit of a cold streak right now.
Yeah, and it was bound to happen. Every team will have a 4-game stretch where you get 2 points out of it, right?
Yeah.
Every championship team. You just need to make sure that you don't do that in the playoffs. Then you're out. But I think they'll be fine. They'll come back from this. It'll be an okay situation.
Yeah, agreed. Good segment, right. Carl. I like our new segment.
It's a good new rehash segment. Let's do another segment that we've been doing for years. This one we know how to do. The Pavel Bures. We pick our must-watch games of the week, and then you head over to Twitter. And this week has been a bounce back. People have been picking the game-winning goal scorer at a rate not seen yet this year. So it's nice. After we had a Coyotes like dry spell, it's over and people are doing it. Tonight, Red Wings Jackets was our game. Lots of people had Mr. Dylan Larkin as the pick.
Good. I would have as well. Dylan Larkin's great.
All right. What do you think? Tuesday night.
Tuesday's got a very big slate of games on.
It's one less thanks to the Senators.
Yeah. You know which one jumps out at me? Where'd it go? Carolina, Vegas.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
You like that?
Yeah. I also would have my suggestion would have been UC Saros versus the great Jack Campbell. Which amazing goaltender is going to win? Wednesday. Sorry, we're on to Wednesday. I want to see if the Avalanche can score 7 goals against the Canucks again.
Done. Let's do it.
On to Thursday.
Thursday. What do we got here? So we've got that New York Toronto game, which will be good. Pittsburgh Montreal will probably be good.
Winnipeg. I mean, if we're picking games that had 7 goals scored the last time they played, the Panthers gave up 7 goals to the Devils.
Let's see if the Devils can do it again.
We're just gonna ride that shtick for the entire week.
Done. New Jersey, Florida.
Ooh, okay. So Friday, the 19th. Well, there's only 2 games to pick from: Seattle versus Colorado. So Grubauer versus the old team, or the Canucks again. So both of these are repeats.
I'd say Seattle versus Colorado.
Seattle, Colorado. All right. Which probably brings us to, well, it does bring us to Saturday, which is going to be our predictively large slate.
Saturday is a very big slate of games. Let's look at these. Let's go Pittsburgh, Toronto.
All right, Pittsburgh, Toronto. I mean, everyone's going to want to talk about Crosby on Hockey Night in Canada. Exactly. It's going to be a thing.
The marquee game on Saturday night.
And then we've got a slew of these. I mean, let's do one that I know you'll be tuning to because your best player on your fantasy hockey teams here, but Calgary, Boston.
Yo, that's where my eye went too, and not because of fantasy hockey. I just saw that matchup and I was like, that's probably going to be a good game.
It is, and it also will be a good game, right? Two good teams playing well. So there you go. Oh, we need one for Monday.
Yeah, let's pick a Monday game.
We've been picking Mondays.
Let's pick a Monday game.
We've got, I mean, a lot of teams that have already been in it this year. I like they're not in the same. I was going to say I like the division matchup of St. Louis, Vegas, but they're not in the same division. But I like that.
No, I like that matchup though.
All right, St. Louis, Vegas. Vegas has definitely turned around. They got Mark Stone back in the lineup. Just got to wait for Jack Eichel, who's had his surgery
successfully.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. Head on over to our Twitter at Fourth Line Podcast and tell us for each of those games who you think is going to score the game-winning goal. You can send it to us all at once. At the start of the week, listen to this episode, go back a few minutes and send us all of them in a DM and we'll just check that DM or send it to us every day like most everyone else does. Both of them are fine. Whatever makes it so that you remember and are part of playing our fun games. We're going to we've got some prizes heading out the door shortly. Hopefully my plan is to get some things in the mail before the Christmas rush. That's my goal. So we'll send some of those out, but we're going to wrap this up before Christmas, hand out some prizes again. So head on over at Fourth Line Podcast on Twitter, thefourthlinepodcast.com for more information. We're on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to shows. And if you enjoyed the show today, please give us a positive review. And if you did not like the show, thank you for still listening to the entirety of it. Thank you for really, truly committing to this. So I appreciate you.
It's about to get worse for you.
No, this is the highlight of the show. This is why people stick around till the end. We'll see you next week.
And it's time for us to wrap up another Fourth Line show. I know what you're thinking. You don't want us to go. All of my goalies have me feeling crusty. Like our new segment, they are feeling very rusty.